Hey everybody, how you doing? Tekking and Barry back again. All right, so the other day I learned how to backflip. That's right, the Tekking tumble is going to enter a whole new dimension of awesomeness, and I'm going to showcase that for you guys today. Are you ready? No, you're not, but here we go, okay? Tekking101, ultimate backflip. How long has this hole been here? I'm very confused right now. That did not show up in the inspection report. Okay, no, I probably shouldn't even. No, all right, okay. All right, well, the backflip tumble is postponed for right now because there seems to be a bottomless hole in my floor. Hey, you know what? That actually reminds me of completely disregarding the fact that I have a bottomless hole in my house that should probably be looked at immediately. You know which One Piece character that reminds me of? Big Mom, right? Because right now, Big Mom in the story in Wano is trapped in the hole. Oh man, that was so cool. Please tell me that'll happen every single time I say the hole. Oh yeah, that's cool. That's an ominous little track there. I like that. Okay. So, a lot of stuff going on in Wano right now. You know, we got Luffy and his awakening, fighting against Kaido, who is now... Let's go down the list of everything Kaido is, because I tend to forget these things. So Kaido is an Oni. He's also a dragon. He's also a fish, which also leads into him being a duck, and now he's also fire. He's also a magma duck dragon fish Oni. That pretty much sums up everything Kaido is, right? So a lot of stuff happening with that fight right now, but... let's roll it back a bit and talk about Big Mom, okay? The fight has now been like about 10 chapters out since Big Mom has been defeated by Kid and Law. So I wanted to talk about her and how she was going to return in the story, or if she was just going to stay in the bottom of the hole forever. There's also some comedic ways that Oda could take this. Like, for example, Kaido gets defeated by Luffy and he falls in the hole, like, you know, in a very Bugs Bunny cartoon-esque thing, which would actually be probably the best way to end that fight between Luffy and Kaido, given Luffy's new abilities. Like, Big Mom is just about to climb out of the hole. Yeah, and then right as soon as she's like, mama, I finally made it to the top, and then she just looks up and just, and then Kaido just slams down and they just fall back into the hole together. Like, that would be pretty perfect. That would be awesome. So there's some funny, and that could still happen too. Like, there's no reason why that could not happen, right? Okay, but now that it's been a while, I just wanted to ask everybody, do you think the way that Kid and Law defeated Big Mom was fair? Do you think it was like a little bit of an ass pull on Oda's part, or do you think it made sense in the narrative of the story? I think it did. You know, I've been seeing a lot of complaints about the Luffy versus Kaido fight right now that it's been going on. I guess not a lot of complaints, but I've seen some people say, like, it's dragging on, it's going a little bit too far, you know, it's like it should have ended already. And maybe the fight with Big Mom and Kid in Law was like the same way. And I'm just like wondering, like, okay, well, Oda's in a little bit of a predicament here because he cannot have a Yonko just defeated, or not even like defeated. Like, Big Mom was not killed or anything like that. She was just pushed off of the island and then had a nuke dropped on her, which, by the way, I'm not exaggerating with that, okay? It was mentioned that the combined bombs and like gunpowder and all of the explosives that were inside of Onigashima had enough like bombastic force, because that's how we measure energy that comes out of explosives in our world. It's not measured in like joules or anything. No, it's measured in bombastic force. BFs, absolutely. Anyway, so the explosive power of all these explosives together would have been enough to completely obliterate all of the Flower Capital, which is the largest city in all of Wano. That was confirmed by Yamato, okay? So these are bombs that are powerful enough to just wipe out entire cities. I'm not exaggerating when I say Big Mom had the equivalent of a nuclear bomb dropped on her, okay? Because that was pretty much what it was, okay? So, but, you know, we can't just jump right to that, all right? Because Big Mom is a Yonko, same as Kaido, right? These are really powerful characters. So, I just wanted to ask for, you know, like what's the magic number of chapters that makes it perfect to make sense of, like, okay, not too short of a fight, not too easy, but also doesn't drag out as long? Because if a fight between a Yonko and, like, Kid in Law lasted, like, 2 chapters, I don't think anybody would have been okay with that. That would have been way too short. But also, I don't think it could have been something like, you know, like 40 chapters, because that would have been way too long. And also, you know, it's not like every single chapter is, like, completely focused on the fight. Like, Luffy has been fighting Kaido now for, well, all right, there's been a few breaks in the fight, like when he got knocked off of Onigashima, but my point is, like, only a few chapters out of the last 50 have been, like, completely focused. Like, the majority of the chapter is focused on Luffy and Kaido's fight. Because a lot of times we'll get, like, half of the chapter focused on the fight, and then we'll cut away to, like, what Raizo is doing or something. Sometimes it's only, like, brief scenes of the fight. But you know what I mean? Like, what's the magic number here to be like, okay, so it was a hard fight, but it wasn't dragged out, and it wasn't too short. It was, like, the perfect amount of chapters. I wonder if there even is a magic number. Probably everybody would have a different opinion on that. But I think Big Mom versus Kid in Law fight, it certainly wasn't, like, perfect. There were things that I complained about. Probably the most prominent one was, like, okay, how much of the awakenings can Kid in Law really pull off? Because they kept saying that they were really close to being, like, out of gas, and then they just kept, you know, pulling off more and more powerful techniques one after another. I guess you could also just extend that to the anime logic of, like, you know, push beyond your limits. You know, go all Yami Sukihiro style from, like, Black Clover, right? It's like, you know, Kid in Law thought that, like, oh, we only have 1 attack left in the gas tank. But at the same time, it's like, you know, they're being pushed against a wall, against their limits, and it's like, we can go even further, okay? And even after the fight with Big Mom, when Kaido came down, you know, after Luffy had apparently been killed and his voice went silent, even then, Kid in Law were, like, getting back up to fight. You know, it wasn't like they were completely down at that point, although they were severely weakened, okay? So I had some problems with that, but it is anime after all, so you sort of have to, like, okay, they can push beyond their limits, and it was a very close fight, okay? And like I said, it wasn't like they killed Big Mom or, like, you know, tore off one of her arms or something. You know, they just knocked her into a hole, you know, several thousand feet above the sea level, and then they dropped a nuke on her. You know, she's not going to be gone for good, you know? And it's the crazy thing is, we could totally believe that given everything we've learned about Big Mom's character. You know, like, just the tenacity we saw during that fight. Like, no matter what Kid in Law did to her to, like, directly damage her, you know, like Kid using Punk Clash and all that stuff, like, no matter what they did, their strongest moves to directly damage her really did nothing. Or even if it did do damage, she just used her Soul Fruit to heal her. And I'm glad that Oda did not spin it in a way where it was like, okay, you know, I can just use my Soul Fruit to, like, heal from... We're good. I could just use my Soul Fruit to just heal from pretty much any wound, and then that just keeps going on, and then eventually it just gets to a point where it's like, oh, I can't do that anymore. And then they just, like, beat her with sheer physical force, okay? I'm glad it was, like, another angle they had to go at it in order to take her down. And so that angle was basically Law pulling... I mean, like, Kid did a lot of work too, but Law using the R room was really the thing that, like, put the nail in the coffin for that fight, because the R room basically shut down Big Mom's entire use of her Soul Fruit, being unable to summon her homies, Prometheus and Zeus and everybody. Well, not Zeus at that point, but Hera at that point, and Napoleon, separating her from her homies, and then trapping her in this silent bubble where she could not use her Soul Pocus ability to drag out the souls of other people around her. And so, oh wait, this isn't good. So yeah, Korozone's Calm Fruit really is a hard counter to Big Mom's power. And it's just crazy, as Crocodile said back in Impel Down, you'll never know how certain devil fruits counter other ones, you know, until you try. There's combinations that you've just never even, you know, considered, right? Because one fruit would seem so weak, like the Calm fruit, compared to a Yonko's Soul fruit. It's like there's no comparison, but it's actually pretty strong, right? Here's a little thing I want to bring up, though. I reread these chapters last night. Here's something interesting. When Big Mom was trapped inside of that bubble, the R room, and she could not speak, her hair was lit on fire. And whenever we see her hair lit on fire, that is usually when Prometheus fuses with Big Mom. And so that's a little strange that I actually went back and tried to see, like, okay, when were her homies, like, separated from her, right? And so, yeah, but her hair was still on fire. So I guess she can light her hair on fire without utilizing Prometheus, just the power of the soul fruit just by itself. Because when she's able to fly on top of Prometheus. We confirmed that during Totland. So it doesn't make any sense for her to, like, get knocked down the hole. And it's like, oh, she can't say anything outside of the bubble. But inside of the bubble, Prometheus is with her, and, you know, he would be aware of, like, oh no, Mama, we're falling, and so to catch Big Mom on the way down. But that was just something I noticed as she was falling down, right? So in that situation, though, I think it works good. I think Law using our room is not considered an asshole or something like that. That makes sense, okay? Like, not just the fact that he was raised by Corazon a little bit, kind of like a big brother sort of figure, and he really respects Corazon, and he would develop a technique that is reminiscent of his devil fruit power, but also, you know, the idea that Law opens up his room and he can sort of do anything in his room that he wants, like the shambles technique, move stuff around, change gravity and stuff, like things to float up or float down or sideways. The idea of his awakening taking that to the next level where he has, like, even more control over his room, and he could make things like, okay, like certain rules, like no sound can permeate or exit this bubble that I create, you know, stuff like that. There's probably a lot of other rooms that Law could make while in his awakening that he hasn't even, you know, considered yet. He could make a room that, like, no light can enter, right? So he just makes a room that is just, it goes dark inside, like no light can exit or you know, enter, okay? And so he could do something like that with his ability. It doesn't really seem ridiculous because Law's op fruit has already been, like, one of the more broken fruits in the story. For him to just come up with abilities like that, not on the fly, but, like, you know, after some thought, it makes sense, okay? So I like the fight. I like how that goes down, okay? So, but even after all that, though, even after being dropped thousands of feet and then even more so into the hole and then landing at the bottom and then having a nuke dropped on her, probably the most that's going to do to Big Mom is knock her out, which could lead into another amnesia arc for her, although I hope not. Actually, you know what would be funny? This would be hilarious. She gets knocked into the hole, and then the bomb drops on her. She loses consciousness. She goes back into her Lin phase, right? And then she just, like, climbs out, and then she's like, oh, what's going on? I don't know where I am. And then Kaido lands on her, and that jogs her memory again, right? Because it's sort of cartoon logic we're going with this. It's just if Big Mom gets a strong enough hit in the head, she just switches back and forth between her two, like, personalities or whatever. Like, that's as easy as it is, right? So, yeah, I don't think that's going to happen here. But here's a question. I just realized this. What's at the bottom of the hole? Yeah. We can't do that the entire video, okay? Now it's getting a little tired. But seriously, what's at the bottom there? Because this could actually lead into something very fascinating, okay? This could lead into something like she gets knocked into a previously unknown land of Wano, like an underground mine or something. And remember, it was mentioned, well, it was mentioned two things. It was mentioned that Wano used to be the land of gold way back in the day, which means there were probably a lot of gold mines on the island that might have run dry because they were mined so much. But maybe if you get knocked down far deep enough, you find, like, another vein of gold or something. So she might get knocked down into, like, a treasure trove. Or the other thing is, it was mentioned that, like, Sea Prism originates in Wano. And that's why all these skilled craftsmen that can actually make Sea Prism bullets and Sea Prism nails and stuff exist in Wano, and there's really not a lot of other of these craftsmen in the rest of the world, okay? Because it kind of, like, originates, or, like, the most of it is mined in Wano, okay? So, you know, we think of, like, this hole as just, like, a way that Law, you know, did that in order to get rid of Big Mom, you know? Knocking her to the surface wouldn't be good enough because she could just fly back up. You had to figure out a way to get rid of her for, like, at least a little while, so that, like, the battle between Luffy and Kaido could finish, and she's taken out of the battle for right now, okay? So he makes this giant hole, and he pushes it, right? Like, he creates this bubble, sends it down, and he, like, pierces the mainland Wano itself, and he's just like, gotta go deeper, you know, just, like, deeper and deeper. So Or he could have pushed it all the way to the ocean, too. But that's a problem in and of itself, because if Big Mom falls into the ocean, then yeah. But that's happened to her before, and she was able to be okay, so maybe not. But yeah, I would find it interesting if, like, it's the end of the arc, and Luffy wins, and the Straw Hats are victorious, and the samurai are victorious, and everyone's like, we did it! And then we just have a shot of Big Mom and the bottom of this hole, and she's can't move, like she's immobilized, like she's injured enough that she can't get back out, and she doesn't have anybody around her to absorb the souls, because, like, Kid was able to, like, break her arm with his ability. She didn't really seem to feel a lot of pain from it. She just sort of got up and just like, oh man, my arm's bending at like 290-degree angles. Like, okay. And then she just turned her bones into homies in order to like strengthen them even more. But if there's nobody around her to absorb souls from, she might be at the bottom of that hole right now with like her broken arms and broken legs or something, and she might not just be able to get out. You could always have a thing where her crew could find her. You know, they have her Vivra card probably. And so, well, actually, that's a thing, because it was mentioned that most people don't have Big Mom's Vivra card because of the power of the Soul Fruit. That could actually be used to like challenge her dominion, as what happened with Lola making the one. And like, how did Lola get one? Wow, that's so okay. Big Mom has definitely made Vivra cards before, but probably only hands them out to like the most trusted members of Totland, and maybe Lola was very trusted, and then she went back on that trust when she left the island, although Lola never really thought that Big Mom was going to be that upset with her, okay? So Lola, given her relationship with Loki, or the lack of a relationship of Loki, but it was looking like Lola was going to get married to Loki, it might have been a thing where Big Mom viewed Lola as one of her most trusted and favorite children, and that's why she gave a Vivra card to her. Like, that's a mantle that only, like, maybe Katakuri has one, maybe Perospero has one, maybe Compote has one. Compote did come with them, so they might have a Vivra card of Big Mom, right? It's just there's not very many in existence, right? So they might find her in the hole, and they go down there, and they rescue her, or whatever. She might have to rip out the soul of, like, somebody. Like, that would be crazy if, like, Perospero's probably not dead, but what if Perospero gets back to life, and then they all go down into the hole to rescue Big Mom, and then Big Mom's like, I need a soul to heal myself, and then she just rips out Perospero's soul, and he's like, he's finally dead, finally, you know, and then uses that to revitalize her so she can heal her broken bones and then get back up out of the hole, right? So maybe something like that would happen. But you could do a thing where it's like she got launched into a mine or something. Or, here's another angle to take it. As she was falling down, she was thinking about Roger. She was just like, Roger, why did you do that? Why did you say, you know, the One Piece existed right before you died? You know, you were about to be executed. You didn't have to worry about the fallout, of the consequences of all that. You left everything for us to deal with. And, you know, Big Mom hates Roger for that. And so as Big Mom is falling down in the hole, she's thinking, like, is the One Piece even real? Is the secret in this country? And she falls down, and then the big boom, right? But what if it's a combination of, you know, Law making the hole and then the bomb going off? What if that creates like a hidden cavern that was only previously known during the Void Century or some shit, and then Big Mom lands there, and it's just like, oh, okay, now this is the secret. I've learned something. Mama. I've just realized this is sort of the plot of the beginning of Crash Bandicoot 2. Where Neocortex falls out of the sky and he lands and he's just like, crystals, of course! Don't, you know, that's kind of like that, where Big Mom's just like, where did you put it, Roger? Where is the One Piece? Boom! And then she falls down into a cave and she's like, Mama, I found it. The Rio Poneglyph. Of course. You know, mama. You know, like, I don't know if it would be something like that, but, maybe, you know, Wano holds the secrets and stuff. There might be a cave or a cavern or, you know, some sort of, like, underground area that has been previously bordered up and, like, forgotten about for 900 years. And, you know, they might have dug it up just there, okay? Here's the other thing, too. We're sort of leading up into this big climactic war during the end of One Piece, right? That's going to be even more intense than Marineford and even more so than what we have right now in Wano and Onigashima, right? It's going to be the Throne Wars, and Doflamingo talked about that, right? And he's like, that's going to happen at some point where all the factions come together. The Marines, the Warlords, or the former Warlords right now, the Yonko, you got the SSG, you got, the revolutionaries, plus all the very strong pirates in the world, the supernovas. They're all going to come together at Laugh Tale for this big epic war. Now, we don't know exactly how that's going to be set up or structured, but, for something like that, I would assume Big Mom and Kaido would be present. But now what's happening at Wano makes me think, like, okay, well, if Kaido is defeated by Luffy here, would it make sense thematically to even have him in this final war when we just had this big epic battle with him? Maybe not Kaido. Like, maybe Luffy will defeat Kaido to the point where he won't be able to fight in the Throne Wars, but Big Mom still might be. Her reputation might be completely destroyed, and she might lose a lot of her power, because if Kaido fails and loses Wano, and then if Big Mom's territory at Tauntland is taken over by somebody else, maybe Crocodile, maybe some other groups, Blackbeard's group, go check out the video I made a couple days ago on that. But Big Mom and Kaido might lose their territories, so they'll still be around and they'll still be able to fight, but they've lost their influence as emperors. Okay, so they might still be in that final war, but it's like they're not going to have as much firepower as they did, beforehand. Like, Big Mom might just have herself and some of her, like, most loyal children to help with her in the fighting in the Throne Wars. Kaido might be the same way if he even is in those, okay. But yeah, let me know how you feel about that. Let me know how you feel about, like, if there is going to be some final climactic war at the end of One Piece involving all of these factions. Would you even want Big Mom and Kaido to be in that? Because we've just spent a whole arc at Tautland with Big Mom, and then Wano had a lot of Big Mom, and then Kaido was all about Wano, so it's just like, we dealt with these characters a lot of already. Let's focus on some other characters. They don't have to be part of this. We'll see how it goes, I guess. But anyway, yeah, that's the video. Thanks to everybody for watching. Just wanted to talk about Big Mom and how she... Oh, another thing, too. This is kind of a side thing, but we do know about the Mogura port, the mole port that exists under Wano. Like, that's another, like, secret way to gain access. So it's actually in the Hakumai region, and Big Mom fell, like, near the flower capital, so it's not in the exact region, but it's possible that she could be knocked down so much that she gets knocked into, like, an underground, like, waterway that's part of the Mogura port, and then she gets swept away and lands there. And so maybe that's where her crew might find her, because, like, okay, they're not going up the waterfall anymore. They're going to try to go in through the back door, and they land in the Mogura port, and then Big Mom gets washed ashore in this, like, subterranean underground waterway. And then they reunite, and then they leave. Okay? That's one of the more boring, but also more practical ways that what could happen with Big Mom, because I'm pretty sure she's not dead. So that would be like just the, oh, okay, yeah, she washes away to the Mogura port, her crew find her, and then they just leave Wano, and then we'll see what happens after that. But there's other angles you could take this. It's like maybe she landed somewhere else in secret under Wano, maybe the Sea Prism Stone mine, then she could grab some of that, or like her crew could take some of that, and they could use that to make weapons, or a bunch of gold that they could use. We'll see what happens. Anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. And now we're starting off a brand new installment of Animal Facts. That's right, the letter H. I had a lot of considerations with this. I got a lot of hedgehog facts. A lot of people were suggesting that, and I do love hedgehogs. They're very adorable, but I decided I couldn't not go with this animal. So welcome to the first episode of Horse Facts. Nay! Yeah, that's all I got. Somebody wants to make an intro, go for it. Okay, so we're going to do just generic horse facts today, and then we're going to move on from there, okay? Horses are part of the family of Equidae, okay? So there we go. They started to evolve from their ancestor about 45 to 55 million years ago. The ancestor to a modern horse was this animal right here, which was a lot smaller, also had multiple toes. Horses only have one toe. toe, or like just a toe makes up their foot, I guess. Oh, by the way, anybody out there that actually knows a lot about horses, because all the animals we talked about up until now, I guess goats, people could like raise goats on like a farm or whatever, but the thing about horses is there's so many people that actually know like a lot about horses, that like train horses and like, groom horses, and like, okay, have like horseback riding, and like the equestrian, like, riding around on horse, dressage, the fancy, way of riding around a horse or whatever. So there's a lot of people out there that might know more about this and be like, Tekking, you're just not doing this justice, but I'm sorry, but here we go, okay? So they evolved from this animal about 45 to 55 million years ago. It was a lot smaller. Horses now are bred to run, or adapted to run. They have an insanely good sense of balance. They can even sleep while standing up or by sitting down. Either way, they can sleep. This is the main thing, all right, that I wanted to bring up here, that I wanted to talk about horses, okay? So horses were domesticated by humans, or the beginnings of domestication by humans, about 4000 BC. Okay, so that's like 6,000 years ago. About 3000 BC, they were more ubiquitous around Europe. There were no horses in the Americas at this point, so Mesoamerican cultures like the Olmecs, the Mayans, and then further down into South America like the Inca and like Norte-Chico and stuff, those cultures did not have horses at all until the Europeans brought them over during the Age of Exploration. Okay, so that's a really big thing. So I'm going to be tackling horse facts probably from more of like a historical standpoint. And with that being said, even though horses have not been domesticated as long as goats and dogs have, for instance, that have been domesticated for somewhere around, I think, 10 to 8,000 years ago is when that domestication started, I would argue there is not a single animal on this planet that has been domesticated by human beings that was more relevant to the way history happened in terms of conquest, in terms of warfare, in terms of agriculture, than the horse. Now, that's obviously largely, subjective there. You could say the dog played the biggest role. You could say cows played the biggest role for food production and stuff. But when you look at the horse and all of the stuff that humans were able to do because of the horse. You got horses carrying carts for transport, horses helping with farming, with tilling the fields, so agriculture, horses being attached to chariots that have giant, like, spears and blades attached to them, so mounted cavalry. Damn, I'm still messing that up, but you know what I mean. Chariots led by horses. People on horseback, riding down people and slicing people apart with swords and stuff and spears. Mounted archery on the horses, So warfare is a huge thing. The fact that when Cortez arrived in Mesoamerica, arrived and took out the Aztecs, a big part of that was, yes, disease, but also the fact that they had better weapons, better armor, and they had horses. Yeah, at the end of the day, it was definitely disease. Disease just ripped through Mesoamerica and just wiped out most of the Aztecs there, and a lot of the other, like the remnants of the Mayan civilization that was around there. But horses definitely played a role, and it was advantage to the Europeans there. The Egyptians did not have horses, and then the Hyksos arrived with horses and chariots and wiped out the Egyptians for a little while. Now, the Egyptians would come back, and then they would use horses now with their own chariots, and they would develop a way to fight back against the Hyksos, but it's just insane. Horses played such a pivotal role in the development of like human culture and civilization. So that's probably what I'll be talking a lot about involving horse facts, but we'll talk about like different breeds of horses and stuff, and we can go into that there. A lot of people, I think, probably have horses on like a farm or like to ride horses. So I think this is going to be probably one of the more interactive versions of animal facts we've done so far, okay? Because horses are truly majestic. All right, thanks for watching, everybody. This will be Tekking signing out. Who do I even call about this? Like, seriously, bottomless hole. Do I call a plumber? Do I call like a housing specialist? I don't even know where to begin with this, but I'll figure it out. All right, later, everyone.